What's good, everybody? Back once again, and I really think the media is really gonna sour this whole Deion Sanders and Colorado thing. I was like, been on board. I was like, it's really dope. Rooting for him and all. Uh, I was like, of course, there are gonna be people that don't like Deion and what he's doing. I was like, there's like three camps. They're really like two camps, but it's three camps. The middle camp is really, I was like, okay, one camp is like the people that don't like Dion, and you know that might be various reasons. Maybe because way he looks, he's loud, or they'll be like he's arrogant, or it's all about him. The way he's doing this recruiting thing, even though everybody can do it, that kind of thing. Then you got people on the one other side that's just like, support him no matter what because of the way he looks. I was like, because he's also, instead of arrogant, it's because he's confident. He's not about himself, but I was like, because of his notoriety and because of who he is, he therefore is also able to shine a light on everybody else. Like he uses his fame to sort of help everybody else get fame, which that's sort of like I like let me be, I'll be like the head of this whole thing, but and because of that, you will get to see all these other players that you might not look at, whether that's like his son or Edwards or Hunter and stuff like that, and then you go to sort of got like then you got some of the people, the detractors from like the how everything happened at Jackson at Jackson State, and that whole thing, where some people didn't mind how it sort of all ended, and there's some people that did, but that's sort of also on a separate camp as well too. It's not in the one to three, but it's in a separate camp, because I was like even though I was like I didn't necessarily agree with how that sort of went down. It doesn't bother me to not also be repping and be on top of being like, yeah, no, Colorado, this is what it's going to be. Then you sort of got in the middle camp that sort of I feel like you wanna sort of like do him like how you just do any of the other coaches, and say stuff, but he sort of brings us a dynamic that doesn't allow you to do it at the same way. That doesn't allow you to be able to sound off or go off on them in a way that's like doesn't sound like you basically hating. But I also too, it's just sort of weird how I feel like the media sort of setting us for an okie doke. And I was like, I really felt that sort of last game against Colorado State, because it was one of them things like, if they lose, what are y'all doing then? Not Colorado, not Deion, but y'all, like, and I mean like the media that's around them, because Deion is going to be Deion. How he sort of like talks about the team and the players and all that other stuff, that's not going to really change. He's going to be there. He's going to give the whole, I was like, his version of basically coach speak, where it's like if they lose, he'll still find a way to, talk like how coaches is, where it's like, we didn't play well enough, but we'll get back to it, whatever that stuff is. But I think, like for instance, they play against Oregon this weekend, and you would think that that being the key matchup that or they play like USC, like after that's where you want to be there, and that's where you want to rally around. But it almost seemed like the third game, that it seemed like they want to jump on it before it dies out. And because it's like they upset TCU, they beat Nebraska. That wasn't going to be an upset, but everybody, because Matt Rule was there, so I guess maybe they thought that was going to be a game they could lose or whatever. And then against Colorado State was a pretty good game, and it was really close in a way that maybe they didn't. I was like, maybe we didn't see them being that close just because they they was on a roll and stuff like that. But they could have very well lost that game, and it was looking like they were going to lose that game, and they made a valiant comeback. But I'm just like, if they lose, or if they would have, see, kind of they lose. I feel like if they lose against Oregon or USC, if they lost in that, like they beat Oregon, this thing gonna be even more hyped. Yet alone they beat USC, but if they would have lost to Colorado State, a team that's not those two, will we have just like whimpered away? Will we just like will we just like keep an eye on them? We're not hype anymore. We're not, and I'm not talking about like we as like the people or the people that's like at Colorado, the people that support Deion and the team and stuff like that and supporting the whole thing. I mean, like, are they going to be shown on TV? Are they going to be brought up on TV? Because I was like, right now they're pretty much the number one spot pretty much in college football. There's nobody else. I was like, Clemson ain't doing nothing. Nick Saban in Alabama ain't doing nothing. And you really got like a bunch of, you sort of got like a bunch, teams that don't really get the looks that some of the like it's sort of a new era of like not smaller teams or smaller programs, but the program that never get they're not the top dogs. They're sort of getting the looks. They're sort of like in the looks, and they're sort of in like the top 25 a lot more than some of the powerhouses that we're used to. I guess depending on how you say powerhouse, but I just wonder if we're just gonna if they would just stop showing them on TV, or they just stop talking about Deion and giving and not necessarily not give him the support, but giving him the camera. They're giving the team the camera. Which I think that was sort of suck. Cause they're sort of the big story in general. I think even if they lose, like I like good thing they did. I like the good thing they beat Colorado State. Cause I think even if they lose against Oregon, they're still going to be good and looked at. And then how they play USC. Then after that, we'll see how that goes. But yeah, no, I think the media just don't really, like they could mess this up with how this all goes, because I was like no matter how, they're already a success story in general. So therefore, you should play out the whole year, giving Deion the same type of looks, like unless they just like go like they lose the next 6 games or something. They should get the same looks. They should get the same thing, and any other than how they've been doing. I was like, if you're going to be hyped on them against Nebraska and against Colorado State, be hyped on them when I was like, whether they lose against Oregon or USC or I was like, or they season just sort of like middle of the road. It started out so hype, and it's already a success story. He already done turned like the program around. He already gonna get people coming there from just off of these couple wins alone. That now I really want them to be Oregon, because I didn't want to see how far the thing goes until I didn't want to see it. I was like like somehow they find themselves like a chance for the playoffs. I didn't want to see it. I don't want to see how far we go. I want to see what kind of story we come up with, because it works the first couple weeks, but then after that you don't really have. It's really hard to talk about this program or talk about Deion other than they keep winning, they keep balling. You don't really like. There's really no story headline you can say that won't just sound like you're ahead at that point. Like I was like. I can't. I was like, I'm trying to even figure out something. Like, I'm like, what could they come up with that it may sound haterish, but could still be a topic of debate. I mean, they'll find something, but it's gonna be hard not to do it that doesn't sound like you a real hater, or there's some other things at play. But anyway, yeah, I was like, hopefully, it's weird. It's funny too, because I was like, 10 years ago, I'd hope they lose against some of my Oregon Ducks, but I'm not really a fan of them like that anymore. But yeah, no, pretty much go Colorado to see how far this thing keep going. Yeah, I was like, let's do this, and hopefully nobody gets started, and then like I said, also too, it's like it's media and stuff like that. Not just that, but I like this type of thing in this era of social media and stuff like that does tend to also die down. Like if this would have been like several years ago, while they might not have gotten the same type of hype because social media is able to amplify them to a higher level, they also can die out really quickly. Not that saying that they're doing bad or they're losing or anything like that, but that's just how the news cycle goes with social media and things like that. Is that it eventually just be like, oh, okay, cool, they keep winning. That's okay, cool. I was like, there's nothing else to talk about here. There's no type of like fight back. There's no, because I like even like like I'm saying like Alabama. I was like that pretty much that. To be honest, that really got boring until you really just being like who can beat them. But with Deion and Colorado, you're not really hoping anybody really beats them unless you just like you get sick and tired of it. But then at some time, every hero turns into a villain. Anyway, that is my thought of how the media is going to probably ruin this, or whether that's the TV media, social media, all that type of stuff. But as far as like the actual support of like individuals or the people on campus and stuff like that, I was like that's not going to really change. That's going to stay pretty much even. But anyway, hoping for a good game. I was like this Saturday. Tune in. I was like check it out. If you like the video and anything here, I would like appreciate it. Thanks. If not, hey, maybe next time. But until then, go Buffalo.